democratic governance with the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) between key legislative institutions of both countries. The agreement was signed today at the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies in Abuja. The MOU is expected to deepen collaboration, promote knowledge exchange, and enhance institutional capacity between Nigeria's legislative support body and South Africa's Gauteng provincial legislature. The initiative comes amid growing calls for stronger intra-African cooperation, particularly in aligning legislative framework to support continental initiatives such as the African Continental Free Trade Area. Speaking at the ceremony, South Africa's High Commissioner to Nigeria, Professor Bobby Wurur, described the agreement as a milestone in bilateral relations.
The presidency has commenced registration for the federal government's free nationwide training of 10 million Nigerians on financial inclusion and literacy. The registration process is to be undertaken by Africa's premier integrated leadership and organizational excellence ecosystem, WARU Africa, aimed at empowering women. Vice President Kashim Shettima launched the registration exercise during a virtual meeting of the pre-SEFI, 6 professional bodies and other development partners, including the World Bank, WARU Africa, African Union, AU, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, and the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, among others, represented by the Special Advisor to the President on Economic Affairs, Dr. Tokpe Fashwa. The Vice President expressed confidence that the flagship initiative of President Bola Tinubu will not only impact on Nigerians, but eventually transform into a global impact.
Experts have expressed optimism about the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN's recapitalization of banks in the country, noting that it will improve the banking system and the financial sector at large. A chartered accountant, Mr. Oluyole, and a public affairs analyst, Bright Richard, made this known while discussing the CBN's bank recapitalization on BCS TV's AM 120 breakfast program. BCS reporter Olamide Wolabi monitored the program and brings the details.
The Central Bank of Nigeria's 2024 to 2026 recapitalization exercise is set to conclude on March 31st, 2026, with the aim of strengthening banks' capital basis to support a $1 trillion economy. As of late March 2026, over 30 banks have met the new minimum requirement through capital raises, mergers and acquisitions, generating over 4.5 trillion naira. Reacting to the development on the AM 120 program, a chartered accountant and legal practitioner, Oluyole, explained that recapitalization helps banks to synergize and enhances their capacity to perform effectively. He added that there will be no major losses as a result of the exercise, noting that the government has already put measures in place to mitigate any possible negative effects, including job losses.
You know, banks have share capital, and share capital is meant to do business. The money is supposed to be contributed by the owners of such banks, so that when the money is put together, it forms the chunk of what the bank uses to do business. Part of the business banks do is to fund the lending requirements, of their customers, and to do other projects, capital and other projects that the banks may want to do. So, when ideally there is a certain minimum that the banks should have as capital, as share capital, in order to start to do business. But over time, it has been discovered that this capital is being eroded. It's being eroded by inflation, by a lot of other factors, so that the value of the share capital is no longer up to what was put there in the first instance.
Also featuring on the program, public affairs analyst Bryce Richard stated that recapitalization is long overdue, describing it as the operational capital banks need to function efficiently. He explained that the Central Bank of Nigeria may have identified challenges associated with banks relying heavily on depositors' funds to finance operations, as the increase in the capital base in line with the current administration's target of building a $1 trillion economy.
At 2004, when the first move came, it was from, I can't get the exact figure, but it was moved to 25 billion. And now we are looking at 500 billion. They have three categories. For the international banks, banks that has their branches outside the shores of Nigeria is 500 billion. Then the national banks is 200 billion. Then the regional bank is about 50 billion. If you do a comparison before that move and after that move, how the banking system operates, you know, sometimes when you go to the bank, you always have these issues, this excuse, no network. You can spend like 3-4 hours in the bank trying to withdraw, trying to access your cash. And after that move, there was some form of adjustment. So now let me relate that with the retail banking scheme. The popular one that we can actually relate with is that of the POS.
They encourage Nigerians to view the bank recapitalization policy positively and support it as a step toward national development. Olamide Olabi, BCOS News.
No fewer than 4,000 rural communities in the 6 geopolitical zones of the country will benefit from rural access connectivity programs designed to deepen digital inclusivity and promote growth and prosperity in rural areas. Minister of Communications, Innovations and Digital Economy, Bosun Tijani, who disclosed this today in Abuja, said the programs have commenced already with impressive feedback from the rural areas. He said more people have been uplifted in their businesses, including farmers, as a result of the ongoing rural connectivity projects across the country. Tijani said the program, alongside the $2 billion investment in the laying of 15,000 fiber optic cables across the country, is designed to recalibrate Nigeria's ambition to leverage the digital ecosystems for economic transformation, growth and prosperity. Tijani ordered that there is much work to do to bridge the rural access gaps in the country, as attention had been focused on urban areas over the years at the detriment of the rural communities.
The federal government, through the Federal Ministry of Health, has launched lenacapavir, a long-acting injection for HIV prevention as part of efforts to curb new infections in the country. The coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Mr. Ali Pate, announced the rollout of the 27th on the 27th of March 2026 in Abuja, describing the drug as a major breakthrough in HIV prevention. Pate said lenacapavir, administered less frequently than daily oral PrEP, would improve adherence and expand protection for individuals at high risk of HIV infection. He added that the injection would complement existing measures such as testing, condom use, and antiretroviral therapy. The coordinating minister said that government is working to ensure nationwide access and awareness as part of its broader HIV control strategy.
Meanwhile, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has destroyed fake and unwholesome drugs estimated at over 939 million naira in the southeast. It was reported that the exercise was carried out today at the Anambra State Waste Management Dam site in Awka. Director General of NAFDAC, Professor Christiana Adeyeye, who supervised the exercise, said it was a decisive regulatory action aimed at removing unsafe, substandard, falsified and expired products from the market. Represented by a director in the agency's DG said the products destroyed included expired, substandard and falsified medicines, as well as unregistered pharmaceuticals, food, medical equipment, and cosmetics. Professor Adeyeye said the presence of the products in the market was a direct threat to public health, adding that substandard and falsified medicines can lead to treatment failure, prolonged illness, drug resistance, disability, and death. She also said the agency's priority remains consumer safety and advised Nigerians to also purchase products from credible sources with NAFDAC registration numbers.
This broadcast of Newscope comes to you from the Broadcasting Corporation of Oyo State, Ibadan. The West African Examination Council, WAEC, has officially released the 2026 first series results of the computer-based West African Senior School Certificate Examination, CBWAS, for private candidates. WAEC made this known in a statement issued on X today, noting that candidates who sat for the examination can access their results within 12 hours. According to the Council, the timely release of the results reflects its commitment to improving service delivery through the adoption of technology and efficient examination processes. It also expressed appreciation to stakeholders for their support in ensuring the successful conduct of the examination.
The National Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons has today destroyed over 2,800 illicit firearms in its 5th high-profile arms destruction exercise in Abuja. This represents a major step in the efforts of the federal government in its fight against violent crimes and terrorism. In his remarks, the National Security Advisor, NSA, Malam No Rubado, described the proliferation of illicit small arms and light weapons as a major threat to national security, as well as a key driver of violent crimes, terrorism, and insecurity. Ribadu, represented by Director of Defense Affairs, Office of the NSA, Major General Hilary Maboko, said the federal government was determined to confront the complex challenges of controlling the flow of illicit firearms. Also, Director General of the agency said the weapons destruction exercise represented a practical demonstration of the center's commitment to curbing the proliferation of illicit arms and promoting regional peace and security. Kokumo revealed that over 16,000 illicit, decommissioned and obsolete weapons have been destroyed since the center's inception, with 2,800 firearms destroyed during today's exercise.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Army under Operation Hadinkai has achieved major gains in the Northeast insurgency by intensifying offensives against key leaders and strongholds of ISWAP and Boko Haram. Theater Commander, Northeast Joint Task Force Operation Hadinkai, Major General Abdusalam Abubakar, discloses in an interview with newsmen in Maiduguri today. Major General Abubakar said that in spite of recent attacks and losses, troops of Operation Hadinkai were steadily tightening the noose on insurgent groups and gradually reshaping conflict across the Northeast. He said that the Nigerian Army and its Air Force component under Operation Hadinkai had sustained offensives targeting key leadership figures and strongholds of the Islamic State of the West African province and Boko Haram. Major General Abubakar added that recent operations had focused on dismantling insurgent command structures, disrupting logistics networks, and denying terrorists freedom of movement across critical corridors in Borno.
In a related development, troops of the Nigerian military have arrested suspected terrorist spies, logistics suppliers, and foreign illegal miners in a series of coordinated anti-terror operations conducted across the northeast and north-central regions. The Director of Defense Operations, Major General Michael Onoja, disclosed this in a statement today, noting that the operations were carried out under Operation Handikai and Operation Savannah Shield through enhanced intelligence-led activities. According to the statement, among those arrested was a suspected terrorist informant in Mobi local government area of Adamawa State, linked to a previous attack in Ngoshe, Borno State. It added that between the 3rd and 4th of March 2026, ISWAP Boko Haram insurgents reportedly launched a major attack on Ngoshe, killing several persons, abducting over 100 women and children, and destroying facilities. The defense headquarters has in recent months sustained intelligence-led operations aimed at disrupting insurgent supply chains, kidnapping syndicates, and illegal activities believed to be funding insecurity.
In the world of sports, Nigeria today secured a 2-1 victory over Iran in an international friendly at the Modern Sport Complex in Antalya, Turkey. The Super Eagles opened the scoring in the 6th minute when Moses Simon finished from the center of the box after a pass from Samuel Chikwueze to give Nigeria an early advantage. Nigeria doubled their lead shortly after the restart in the 51st minute. Akwo Adams fired home from close range after being set up by Ademola Lookman. Iran pulled one back in the 67th minute through Mehdi Taremi to spark hopes of a comeback. Nigeria made several changes as the game progressed, introducing Paul Onuachu, Fisayo Denibashiru, Chidera Ejuke, and Frank Onyeka, while Iran also reshuffled their side in search of an equalizer. The Super Eagles will next face the Jordan national football team in their next friendly on Tuesday, 31st March.
On the foreign scene, the Mexican Navy today searched for 2 sailboats that went missing while transporting humanitarian aid to crisis-hit Cuba a week after leaving Mexico. Mexico's Navy explained that the vessels set sail last Friday from Isla Mujeres in Mexico's southeastern state of Quintana Roo with 9 crew of different nationalities on board. It added that communication with the crew was lost. The Navy did not specify the identities or nationalities of the crew members on the missing boats, but said it was maintaining communication with rescue agencies in Poland, France, Cuba, and the United States. The Navy is also in contact with the diplomatic missions of the crew members' countries of origin to cooperate and exchange information in real time.
For other foreign news across the world, let's join our foreign news editor, Folashade Akintola. Her report is presented by Bimbo Akombi.
President Volodymyr Zelensky, who arrived in the kingdom on Thursday, said on X that an important arrangement had been made ahead of a meeting with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
This includes all types of drones, Shahid, drones which cause serious damage to infrastructure, and FPV drones which are now used for targeted attacks on military bases and equipment in the region. We offer the Middle East and Gulf countries a partnership that benefits both sides, our knowledge and technology and their funding.
Saudi Arabia has not confirmed the defense pact. Riyadh has intercepted hundreds of drones and dozens of missiles from Iran since the United States and Israel first struck Tehran on February 28. At least 6 missiles were intercepted on Friday, the Saudi Defense Ministry said. Kiev, which has long battled Russian drones, was quick to signal willingness to partner with Gulf countries after Iran began launching attacks on Gulf nations. Ukraine has become a major producer of cheap but efficient interceptor drones to counter Moscow's waves of drone attacks that have intensified since late 2024.
Russia is also supporting Iran now with the drones so that they can attack neighboring countries and also U.S. military bases.
In the meantime, Russia has stepped up assaults in Ukraine's east in what may be the start of a spring offensive and launched an air assault of record size against Ukraine's western cities. Ukraine has responded with strikes against the USTG Luga and Primorsk oil export terminals in the Baltic Sea, severing as much as 40% of Russian oil export revenue. equivalent to 2 million barrels of oil a day, according to reports from the Reuters news agency. It is the most severe oil supply disruption in the modern history of Russia, the world's second largest oil exporter, the press reported. Ukraine attacked Russian oil exporting infrastructure on Monday and Tuesday this week. Ukraine's general staff said drones struck an oil tank farm and oil loading pier at the Transneft Port Primorsk oil terminal in Primorsk, west of St. Petersburg. Satellite footage suggested at least 5 of the 18 tanks were damaged. The general staff also said drones had struck the UST Luga oil offloading platform in the Baltic Sea on Tuesday night. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko has gifted North Korean leader Kim Jong-un with a rifle as they signed a friendship treaty in Pyongyang, state media reported. The two leaders, both key supporters of Russia's war in Ukraine, agreed to cooperate more closely and resist pressure from the West. Lukashenko joked to Kim that he brought him an automatic rifle just in case enemies appear, according to a video released by Belarusian state media. In turn, Kim gave Lukashenko his sword and a vase featuring a portrait of the Belarusian leader. Lukashenko described the friendship treaty as fundamental, while Kim said it would further guarantee the stable development of bilateral relations. The two leaders also agreed to cooperate in fields ranging from agriculture to information to public health. Bimbo Akombi, BCUS News.
To end this edition of Newscope, here again are the main points. Nigeria and South Africa have taken a step to strengthen inter-parliamentary cooperation and democratic governance with the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) between key legislative institutions of both countries.
The federal government, through the Federal Ministry of Health, has launched lenacapavir, a long-acting injection for HIV prevention as part of efforts to curb new infections in the country.
The West African Examinations Council (WAEC) has officially released the 2026 first series results of the computer-based West African Senior School Certificate Examination (CBWASC) for private candidates.
And on the foreign scene, the Mexican Navy today searched for 2 sailboats that went missing while transporting humanitarian aid to crisis-hit Cuba a week after leaving Mexico.
And that's all from Newscope Desk for now. It was packaged by Ajedonyi Oluyole and delivered by
Jamila Elegbede. Good evening.
And Josephine Oluwabome. Thanks for listening. Do not forget to tune in for the Yoruba version at 8 p.m. Good evening.
Rédíò tí ó láfiwé Olúyọ̀lé FM àwa ni bàbá.
Wọ̀kùwọ̀kù ló rọrùn pẹ̀sẹ̀ láti kéde nílé akéde Tòyónì. O ò nílò kó o ṣe mọ́ dára rẹ̀ láàmú sọ pé òun wọkọ̀ bọ̀ wá sílé akéde lóríta Basọ̀rún Ìbàdàn mọ́. Pàápàá jùlọ láti ṣe ìkéde yẹn polówó ọjà yẹn tàbí fi tọ́tọ́ tó sì yẹ tó àwọn aráàlú létí bóyá nípa àpàdé nípa àsọjí àbí nǹkan kan àbómi ìtẹ́bálẹ̀ fẹ́ ṣe ẹ̀tún yá gbàgbé àgbáyé kí ẹ̀ náà tẹ́ fẹ́ ṣe hàn wá 09158703300 lórí agbègbè kí ló ń ṣẹlẹ̀ WhatsApp nọ́mbà ìkànnà àmọ́ ni ọ̀rọ̀nù pẹ̀sẹ̀ stress free courtesy BCOS. You don't have to stress yourself coming down to Ilé Akéde Oríta Basọ̀rún Ìbàdàn again to make that announcement or place that advert. Book online, personal paid announcements, obituaries or in memoriam, annual conventions, workshops, crusades, social diaries, inter-house sport competitions, musical shows or concerts, and other promotions. Very simple. Go online to book for transmission on BCS radio channels or BCS TV, or simply call 091 5870 3300 or WhatsApp on the same number 091 5870 3300. BCOS, a media giant in a class of its own.
Kango lagogo ń dún kẹrẹjẹgbẹ lóhùn akèrègbè kan tóbi lásán ni o kò lóhùn agogo lẹ́nu. Ilé akéde Ọ̀yọ́ làgbà ó kẹnu ó sì tún lágbàlá ńlá tó rí kọmọre sí. Tá a bá ń sọ̀rọ̀ ètò àṣà òun èdè tó mọ́yán lórí gbogbo ẹ̀ ló wà nílé akéde Ọ̀yọ́. Lọ́sẹ̀ yìí lórí Èyí Àrà, ta ni ọmọlúàbí níbèrè tá a tún jọ yiri wò tá a jọ gbọ̀n yẹ́bẹ́yẹ́bẹ́ ká lè fòkodoro lélẹ̀ láì ní tanra wa jẹ. Téńté orí ìròyìn ni ó tẹ̀lé tó bá wá di abala kejì níbi tá a ti ń gbàlejò ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n Ayọ̀ Ahmed látẹ̀ka tí wọ́n ti ń kọ́ nípa ìtọ́ni ohun ìgbaninímọ̀ràn nílé ìwé gíga fásitì Ìbàdàn ló ń bọ̀ wá sórí ètò Èyí Àrà lọ́sẹ̀ yìí. Wọ́n ń bọ̀ wá bá wa tú palẹ̀